few years ago, I wouldn't have had to have climbed over that. This was one of the main routes out from the former visitor centre here at the Sherwood Forest Country Park. Just used to be thronged with people, visitors from all over the world, just through those very gates. It's just me now, and I've got two directions I can go in. I'm taking this path down here. It's downhill, thankfully, on the right hand side, because today I'm after another clearwing moth, and I'm after the Welsh Clearwing. And the best place for that is down towards the more heathland areas around the Gleethorpe Open. Well, conditions have settled down a bit now. It was quite breezy, but that wind's really dropped. It seems the ideal conditions for Welsh Clearwing, but I'm a bit concerned about the Welsh Clearwing, because in the last few years it's been decidedly hard to come by. It was seen in 2021 on 16th of June, I believe, and I made several attempts using this pheromone lure to find the moth myself last year and failed each time. I failed on several occasions already this year from various sites within the Sherwood Forest NNR, and I'm concerned that the numbers of the moth have dropped, unless it's just having one of those poor years that invertebrates often have. But what really concerns myself about the future of the Welsh Clearwing here in the Sherwood Forest NNR, and especially here in the Sherwood Forest Country Park, is the decline and decrease in the lack of suitable mature birches, which the moth needs as part of its life cycle. Technically, this is a saproxylic species, although that saproxylic nature in this instance relies on birch rather than oak, and oak takes precedence here, make no mistake about that. The rate at which mature birches are being removed or just topped in the country park is beyond belief, and the further west you go from here, away from the Swicket Road, the less mature birches you're going to see, which is probably one of the reasons why the Welsh Clearwing in the country park has always been easy to find here in this eastern part of the country park rather than in the western part area going up towards the centre tree in Clipston Old Quarter. Indeed, it seems to have completely gone from Clipston Old Quarter now, when it was found there about 11 years ago, I think was the last record. It's all very worrying, and the continued removal of silver birches within the country park and the general Sherwood Forest NNR area is extremely worrying. And so's the lack of moths on an otherwise perfect day to lure them. Like most female moths, the choice of egg site isn't just haphazard. It's not just a case of the moth flying around and just depositing an egg on the first bit of the correct food plant she finds. Some moths admittedly do that, but most, and this includes butterflies, the females are quite picky and very fussy about where they deposit their prized eggs. After all, those eggs are for the benefit of the species, so you don't just place them anywhere, do you? With Welsh Clearwings, the tree has to be in the right position. It needs an element of sunlight, and trees that are in heavy shade are ignored. You do sometimes get old exit holes of clearwings on trees that have become shaded over time as other trees surrounding have grown up and shaded the plant out. So, in the case of the Welsh Clearwing here, most of the records are coming from the more open sites, like here around at the Gleethorpe Open, around this bit of the dump here in the country park. But there is one particular tree close by here, and I'll show you in a minute, that is literally covered and riddled with the exit holes of Welsh Clearwings. It's obviously a tree that's been used for decades, because obviously the moth was here many years before it was first discovered in 2009. Some of the exit holes on that tree are now considerably larger than the 5mm exit holes that the most recent moths have emerged from are. So, with the lack of appearance of any moth here, and I've been here now a good quarter of an hour or so, I think we'll go and have a look at that tree. It's quite shaded where it is now, but it does still get some sunlight. Now, at one time, you used to be able to approach that tree and find a pupal exuvia quite easily, as you could on several other trees in this area. The last few years, though, I've failed to find any at all. Yet again, another worrying factor that raises its head. As you can see, this is the one of two key trees actually that are used within the Sherwood Forest NNR, at least two that we know about that are used by the Welsh Clearwing moth and have been used probably for many decades. Countless females have visited this tree and deposited the eggs, and the larvae has lived deep in the bark and then emerged, producing these exit holes before pupating just inside the exit hole, and then the moth emerging a week or so later. All of these holes that you can see are all made by Welsh Clearwing larvae prior to pupation. The larger holes have increased over time as the bark's stretched, but typically, though, Welsh Clearwing exit holes are perfectly round and 5mm across. In former years, you could come to this tree and quite easily find pupal exuviae half out of the exit holes, and it has took me a while. I've gone over this tree to try and find one, and there is one pupal exuviae which is just around here. And here is that exit hole with the pupal exuviae. This is the first one I've seen for many years, really, to be honest. Not looked for them, admittedly, although I have in recent weeks, and I've had no sign whatsoever, but there are some signs of some larval workings as well, where the frass often gets brought out to these exit holes. But there is the exuvia. The exuvia are always protruding, usually about half the length in this manner, but they never stay like that for very long for various unknown reasons. They soon get displaced or dislodged, and so in a few weeks' time this pupal exuvia of the Welsh Clearwing won't be here. At least now we know that they are out and about. And here's an exit hole that is still sort of blocked off by frass, but it's only very loose and soft frass, so you might be able to see that moving there. Just inside there, probably about an inch or so behind that entrance, there will be an unhatched pupa of Welsh Clearwing, and when that hatches, this soft exuvia is able to be pushed outwards easily by the emerging moth, and then you get left with the pupal exuvia sticking out of that. So that's the kind of sign you need to look for, any sort of frass filled holes, and the frass is always reddish, like a dark brownish red. There are some signs on these two holes here that you can see. The signs are there, but the moth isn't, unfortunately. Well, as you can see, I've just put the lure out for 10 minutes while I'm here. It's always worth a try. And I've certainly lured Welsh Clearwing to the lure placed on this tree before. At least we know they're out because we've seen the exuviae. Let's just hope one of the moths comes in, but I'm quite worried about Welsh Clearwing here. I thought I'd have had it by now. And the conditions have been lovely today as well. It's just not appeared.